polite, but it's past your
Okay.
pucks.
Okay. And earlier on in this month or last month, whatever, on Best of Beaver County, Mr. Buffalini was on from the Master Gardeners, and he mentioned a fertilizer that is pretty much organic, the Malorganite, which is
Malorganite,
and it came out of back in the late 60s, early 70s, somewhere around there.
Malorganite.
Okay, now, and I'm going to make this as pleasant as I can. It is processed human waste. The city of Milwaukee sanitary district come up with this way. They were going broke. And they found this way to flash dry the processed human waste. It's about 6% phosphorus, and it's got some.
Okay.
All right. Now that's 100. I want to say it's as organic as you're going to get. If that thought repulses you, I don't use it. A lot of people do. They're happy with it. If that thought repulses you, then you can buy some Miracle Grow. One of the things that I always wondered about is we talked at nauseum about the blossom end rot on the tomatoes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a calcium deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
They need to put some calcium in Miracle Grow, and it would fix it. Now there's a tomato specific Miracle Grow that may have some more calcium in it, but and the person you're absolutely right, and it's probably synthetic, but it's less synthetic than if you go to the grocery store and buy those tomatoes that are picked when they're green and they use gas to ripen them.
They spray them and put them under a certain light and
So criticism accepted, and well,
what are you going to do?
That's the thing.
You don't have a talk show until you tick somebody off with some innocuous statement.
Right.
So welcome.
Yeah, well, and then Mike sets me up this morning, said I'm going to bring all kind of things to put on the camera. This is the 1 month that I didn't. And then he says, call in your questions about pruning your hedges. And I don't know anything about that. I grow some flowers, but I don't know when to.
He was writing a check with your butt, sounds like.
Well, yeah, but it was nice. He did it in a nice way. But and I mean, I don't know when to trim your hibiscus. And I do know that you don't trim your rhododendrons once the blooms are on them and stuff like that. But please, if you have a pruning problem, this is not the forum for it.
Yeah, we can't help you. They don't let us really play with sharp stuff. I do have a question for you. I was looking, and I've shared this on this program. I am not putting it in my backyard. It's windowsill.
Yes.
Like Toledo window box, like the old George Carlin record.
Right.
I've got those. I'm to the point I can put stuff in now, right?
No.
Memorial
Day.
Why?
You listen to me like my kids listen to me.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Why Memorial Day? I thought if it stayed above 32 and you believed it was going to stay above 32, you could go ahead.
All right. Now, first of all, those seedlings that you're so proud of that I mistakenly told you to use Miracle Grow on, okay, you have to harden those plants off. You just can't take them out of your 70-degree apartment and stick them in the box where they're going to be exposed to temperatures that may go down in the 40s. You have to get a day like today and put them outside for a little bit.
What kind of wussy plants did you give me that I got to delicate flower them? No pun intended.
Here we go again. All right. No, but yeah, I was going to get into that like maybe next month, but since you brought it up, yeah, there's a process called hardening off. And you've got these young, healthy, vibrant plants, but they're tender. They're just like a young child. Okay, you don't take a 3-month-old baby and take it outside when it's 10 below zero, and. But, okay, so you put the plants out on your ledge. Like a day like today. Put them out for an hour. Take them back in. Tomorrow, maybe put them out for an hour and a half. And you slowly acclimatize them to being used to temperature changes. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, Memorial Day, and I've said this before, I'm a traditionalist. I'm old-fashioned. Some of the more modern people will say Mother's Day, which is earlier in May. If you set your plants out after Memorial Day, you're about 99.9% less likely to either have to cover them for a frost or have them freeze.
Freeze off and die.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to harden them off, and you wait till the temperature is right to put them out there. Now, this is a topic I had this further down on the list, but let's do it now. Things you can grow now.
That was my next question. What can I plant? Because I've already got my dirt.
potato. Remember I gave you seed potatoes?
Yeah, okay. So those can go in buckets.
Those go in buckets. Okay. Now, and the reason why you can put them in now is, now I can't remember the size I gave you. They were smaller ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just put them in whole. Don't try to cut them up and scab them like I told you about the bigger.
Well,
potatoes.
one of them had 2 different roots coming out. You told me to split that one in half.
Okay, then and scab it over. Let it set for a few days before you put it in the dirt or it'll rot. Okay?
Tater surgery.
Tater surgery, yes. And as you said last month or whatever, good scabbing takes time. Yep. Okay.
One of the life lessons we all need to know.
No, I listen to you even if nobody else does.
That's one.
That's one. There you go. A committee of one. Okay, so anyway, right now in my garden, I have snow peas coming up. I planted them. You plant snow peas, potatoes, and onions on St. Patrick's Day. Now that's real early.
What kind of onions do you plant? Do you plant the green onions, skinny ones, or do you plant the big hunk onions?
All right. You go. The easiest way to plant onions is not to buy onion seeds. You go to a farm market or somewhere and you buy onion sets. They look like little baby onions. Okay. There are Spanish onions, okay, and there are red onions, and there's white onions.
I love red onions.
Yeah, and they're good in a salad. They're great. Okay, now I grow a little bit of all different kind, but mostly I grow the Spanish, which is the yellow onions, because they keep better. I put them in my coal cellar. I just used the last couple from last year the other night. The white onions and the red onions don't keep as well. They have a higher sugar content, and you can grow them, you can keep them.
Is that what makes them not keep as well? More sugar?
That's my guess, because they're a sweeter onion.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I love green onions, and I buy packages of green onions, and what you say is exactly true. They don't stay good for long.
Right. Now, if you get your onion sets. Now, if you want them for table, we use table onions. Or as one guy used to call them salt dippers, because you put a little thing of salt out on the table and you dip the onion in it and chew on it while you're eating your dinner.
That's redneck, dude.
That's redneck, dude. Yes, it is.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and it has to be an old antique salt shaker that you just take the lid off of and stick.
Something stolen from a diner.
Yeah. Okay, so if you want the table onions, I always tell people the white onions or the red onions. You can grow the table onions with the Spanish onions. They're going to be more pungent. If you're not a delicate flower, you want a little bite, okay. And it's funny because it's a story, I tell the story all the time. I was in the store and I'm getting some onion sets, and this lady come up to me, and let's just say she wasn't dressed like a gardener, okay? I can't picture this lady with dirt under her fingernails, but she come up to me, and I'm weighing up my onion. You buy onion sets by the pound, by the way. You buy them by the pound. Okay. And she come up to me, and she says, excuse me, young man, which she immediately got my attention. Okay.
Yeah.
And she says, I want to grow green onions. You know anything about green onions? And I said, yes, ma'am. I said, you take these onion sets. Okay. Now, if you plant them shallow, you'll get a big bulb of an onion and not much of an edible top. Match with no edible top. I said, you plant them real deep. Put them down in a couple inches, 3 inches, and you'll get a long edible stem, and you can pick them while the bulb is young and tender. And after I went through like 20 minutes of explaining this to her, she looked at me and says, but I want green onions. See ya. Nice talking to you. I weighed my onions and I left.
What?
Yeah. Well, she didn't listen to a word I said. And I thought, was she just trying to make conversation or, but
was she flirting with you and you started talking over her head or something? Maybe she's a vegophile.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to get on that road. It's a family show.
How long does it take for green onions if you plant? I never knew that if you planted them deeper, you were getting a big bulb. The stuff, if you plant it deep, the stuff you're not getting is what gets diced up, and that's the chives that gets put on top of a dish.
Right. If you plant them deep, they will eventually get bigger. But if you want an early harvest in say 6 weeks or so of table onions, plant them deep. If you want them to grow bigger, plant them shallow and just cover them with a little bit of dirt. And then you've heard me say this, and then mulch it with shredded paper. My onions are coming up now through my shredded paper, and so now you can put in onions, you can put in potatoes, you can put in snow peas. There are certain other things like beets and carrots and lettuce that doesn't freeze as easily a little bit later. And those kind of things, usually a frost won't. I got ahead of myself. The reason why you can do the potatoes now is it's going to be a while before they are up out of the ground. So you put them in the ground now, so by the time they're coming up, the weather is already warmer. It isn't something like that you're taking your plants and setting them out there in a thing where they're exposed immediately.
It's not a shock to their system.
Right. And they're in the cool ground, and they're coming up. And so yeah, if you're itchy to get out there and you wanna do some gardening now, and I mean, I don't know who doesn't like snow peas and onions and potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so but all those things that I'll kind of spin this into what I had from my first topic. And as Yogi Berra said one time, this is deja vu all over again, because on the April show last year, we discussed picking a spot for the garden.
This is when you need to do that. If you need to pick a spot, now is when you got to sort it out to start preparing. So that's perfect.
Right. So, and like I jokingly said last year, if you look out your window and say, well, the grass never grew over there, I might as well put the garden over there. There's probably a reason the grass didn't grow over there.
Yeah, nature's trying to hint.
Yes. So go, and if you have a lawn or whatever, go where the grass is the lushest, okay? Because that probably means it's a better soil. And do not spade under or till under that grass, because it's going to come back up. Skim it off. Go out, and what I always tell people is start small.
Okay, so you're talking about just strip mining the entire grass line rather than trying to roll it over.
Right, yeah, don't till it, because it doesn't die. The roots are still there, and all it does is you've turned it upside down. Now it pokes its head back up in a couple of weeks, and now it's not only a weed, but it's a weed that's down in the ground 5 or 6 inches.
And it's competing with the nutrients for what you're trying to grow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I always tell people is start small, start humble. I try to gear your show toward somebody that's thinking about starting a garden, because if you start too big, it'll overwhelm you. You'll get frustrated. You'll give up. Start small. You can make it bigger next year. If you say, hey, I want to put in 2 dozen tomato plants instead of 1 dozen, you can make it bigger next year. But what I tell people is go out after like a nice all-night soaking rain, and you can skim that sod right off, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, take a shovel and skim it off. Now, if you're picking a spot, you want adequate sun. Morning sun is better than evening sun, but any sun is better than no sun. So, and like I said before, accessibility to water.
Why is morning sun better than evening sun?
It doesn't have the heat intensity. It doesn't dry the plants out as much as the afternoon sun.
Okay.
Because
so it's taking into account that the sun's been in the sky the whole time, and by the end, the evening sun is basically piling on to it.
Right, but things like tomatoes, once they get established, all day sun is the best. But especially if you've got young plants or young seedlings, the morning sun, it's just like if you go out there, and I was walking down the street at 8 o'clock this morning and the sun's out and it's pleasant. By 4 o'clock this afternoon, it's not going to be as pleasant. It's going to get hot.
It's going to be a little steamy.
Okay. So and the other thing when you're picking a spot is accessibility to water. Don't put 100 by 100 foot garden 100 feet from the house.
Unless you want to hate yourself while dragging buckets of water across your yard.
Right, or a big long garden hose or whatever. And it's like I said, it's in the Constitution. As soon as the garden's planted, it stops raining.
Yep.
It's there. Okay, so you want to pick a spot with good sun that you can get water to easily. And then this is topically, unfortunately, if you're in certain areas in our neighborhoods now, the quality of the soil could have been contaminated from recent events.
All right, I'm going to hold you there, and we're going to pick that up after news. Charlie Dirt is my guest. Garden Jargon on Beaver County Radio. News is next.
Hi, folks. I'm with our good friend John Diagardi from Row Monument. John, you were telling me earlier that people really should not rush into choosing a memorial for their loved one. Now, why is that?
We found that families need to take ample time to grieve first. Grief is not something that we get over, but rather something that we learn to live with. So the length of time to grieve varies from person to person.
You mentioned that the monument can't be placed right away.
That's right. There are certain things that need to take place before a monument can be installed. So it's really worth taking time to think about how to plan and design a memorial that truly reflects a person's life. It's actually a healing activity that helps to alleviate.
Makes a lot of sense.
It does. And when the time is right to proceed, not only can Row Monument help families choose and design their memorial, we can help them save as much as 50% by eliminating the middleman.
Thank you, John. Folks, you can learn more simply by visiting rowmonuments.com.
When accidents and injuries happen, you need the experience and insight of the legal team at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George. A law firm of AV-rated attorneys and super lawyers. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George, helping you put your life back together. Attorney Joe George.
You worry about getting better. You worry about taking care of the medical side of things. We'll take care of all the legal side. I don't want you worrying about whether a letter needs to go out to an insurance company. You worry about getting to your doctor's appointments. You worry about getting your physical therapy appointments. You worry about getting better. If you have to have surgery, you worry about take you back and forth to the surgical center or the hospital. And all those things, I try to put my client at ease from the standpoint of, look, this is where things are going to go. You just worry about getting there on your side of things.
For your initial consultation, call the law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George at 724-658-8535 or online at lgkg.com. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George, keeping promises for over 80 years.
Think about the best breakfast or lunch you've ever had. Then think about Mr. Jim's Breakfast and Lunch Restaurant in Baden. Everybody's talking about it. Waffle Wednesday for mouth-watering waffles. French Toast Thursday, famous for a reason. And Wrap It Up Friday with all wraps just $5.99. Stop in Sunday before or after church or before or after Saturday errands. Mr. Jim's is open 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. For food that's better than homemade, it's Mr. Jim's Breakfast and Lunch Restaurant, 25 State Street in Baden. Call 724-419-0886 for takeout. That's Mr. Jim's Breakfast and Lunch Restaurant.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMVA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Curtis Walsh.
Good morning. We can expect sunny skies today with a high near 80 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after this look at news. Once a household name known for his restaurants in the region, Lou Papin has passed away. According to Scott Tatey of the Beaver County Times, Papin passed away at his home in Patterson Heights, surrounded by family. Many will be able to recall seeing Papin appearing in his own commercials. After starting his restaurant business in Beaver Falls, he opened the first Papin's Family Restaurant in New Brighton near the Beaver Falls Bridge in the mid-1960s. Papin was 92 years old. A pair of new faces have been introduced to the city of Beaver Falls. Matt Durzik has further details from Tuesday night's city council meeting.
Former Beaver police officer Tyler Yercito was unanimously hired by Beaver Falls City Council at Tuesday night's city council meeting with a set start date of April 17th on the job. New Carnegie Free Library Director Kurt Fries was introduced by outgoing interim director Ray Gutowski at Tuesday's meeting as well. Fries comes to Beaver Falls from a previous position in Evans City. The city also finalized its administrative code and operations for a home rule municipality by a unanimous vote. Mayor Kenya John stated that the ordinance is mostly a formality at this point.
It is now adopted by the city of Beaver Falls. It's already, to be quite honest, it's already been in effect for the city as it has it for a year and a half now, but it's just officially adopted.
The full story from last night's city council meeting can be found at beavercountyradio.com. From Beaver Falls, I'm Matt Durzik for Beaver County Radio News.
Beaver County Coroner David J. Gaybauer is announcing his re-election campaign for Beaver County Coroner, a position he has held since 2015. Gaybauer instituted regular Monday through Friday office hours, which the county's police departments have found helpful. In addition, the coroner and all of his deputies are now certified by the Pennsylvania Attorney General via the Coroner's Basic Education course conducted in Hershey. All also attended an annual 8-hour continuing education course. Coroner Gaybauer is seeking reconfirmation from the voters of Beaver County. A Beaver County resident has been sentenced in federal court to 96 months of imprisonment on his conviction of possession with intent to distribute and distribution of a substance containing detectable amounts of heroin and fentanyl, acting United States Attorney Troy Rivetta announced. United States District Judge William S. Stickman imposed the sentence on Zachary Martin Symbolic, age 36, of freedom. According to the information presented to the court, on January 6, 2019, law enforcement officers found a deceased individual under circumstances suggesting that the death was caused by an overdose, which was later confirmed by the Beaver County Coroner's Office. At the location, law enforcement officers found drug paraphernalia and distinctive empty stamp bags. Based on telephone records and other investigative techniques, law enforcement identified Symbolic as the likely source of supply of the drugs. As part of the plea agreement, Symbolic took responsibility for causing the death. The Midland Innovation and Technology Charter School is hosting an open house on Friday, April 14th from 4 to 6 p.m. for interested parents and students entering grades 9 through 12 in the academic year 2023-24. Terrence Smith, CEO of MITCS, and Vince Gratteri, Director of Enrollment Diversity and Inclusion, will serve as the presenters. They will explain how the school operates and answer questions regarding the school, curriculum, and the many career pathways available to potential students and their families. Prospective students will also tour the Charles J. Betters Innovation Center, the ultra-modern $8 million facility that houses the school. The school features 32,000 square feet of state-of-the-art instructional studios, flexible lab environments, student support spaces, administrative offices, and food service and dining amenities. Interested parents and students are invited to visit mitcharterschool.org for more information.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM. Along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
We can expect sunny skies today with a high near 80 degrees. Clear skies tonight going down to a low of 53. Sunny tomorrow with a high of 81. Mostly sunny Friday with a high near 83. Scattered showers roll in Saturday with some possible thunderstorms and a high of 79. And showers likely Sunday with mostly cloudy skies and a high of 74. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM, 95.7 FM, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Talk about what's happening in Beaver County or around the world on Teleforum. 724-843-1888. 724-774-1888. It's Teleforum with Eddie Crow.
It is Teleforum, and it's better than Teleforum today. We're in the middle of Garden Jargon. That's when Charlie Dirt comes in. If you'd like to watch us make faces at each other, you can do that. This is being live streamed on our Facebook page right now. It got me in the mood. The last couple of days, Charlie, I was looking at the weather, and I'm thinking, if I was a plant, I would grow. It's 74 degrees right now. Now's the time to do this.
Right, and you know, like we talked about, yeah, it's wait till Memorial Day, because the longer you keep them inside and harden them off a little bit, the stronger they're going to get. And feed them whatever you want to feed them, whatever your conscience feels good giving your plants. But the topic I started to get into is a more unpleasant one, because it is very helpful to get a soil test. All right, now,
how many more people are getting a soil test this year than in years past, you think, because of East Palestine? I'll say it. That we treat it like that will not be named. I'll say it. The East Palestine train wreck that Norfolk Southern's doing nothing about.
Except dumping the dirt from the train.
Except spilling the dirt on the highway.
Right. Okay. Well, now, and I always, you get the soil up till, a couple of months ago, you would go and you could get a basic soil test. And I got some information. There are two places. There's a lot of places that do it, but there's multiple levels of soil testing. Basically, you want to know your pH, okay, which is the acid alkalinity relationship, because a plant, you can have all the nutrient in the ground that plant needs, but if the pH is not right, if the ground is too acidy or it's too alkaline, the plant cannot absorb it. So you want a pH somewhere.
So basically, you're starving it.
Yes, it's starving to death. Yeah, it's like you sitting in the middle of a restaurant with no money.
Okay.
All right. So you want to know the pH, and the pH is pretty easy to fix. If it's too low, you put in some hydrated lime or some pelletized lime. Okay. If it's too high, you use some organics. And the one thing that's good for bringing the pH down that's an organic is peat moss. Peat moss can serve two functions, because when you go out and you do that first thing of skimming the sod off,
right?
This is the Charlie Dirt complicated soil test. Get your round point shovel, push it down in with your foot, turn a shovel full of it over. If it's kind of a yellowish, brownish color and it falls off the shovel in a lump, it's most likely clay-based soil.
Not good.
It can be, but it doesn't drain well. So if
what grows good in clay? Well, cotton.
Probably.
Yeah, red clay.
Yeah, red clay, yeah, or the brown clay.
Mm-hmm.
But the clay soil, it can be fixed by adding a mixture of sand and peat moss. The number I've heard thrown around is 7 to 1. Say 7 shovels of sand and 1 shovel of peat moss, and spade that in or till that in. That'll loosen the soil up. But like I said, the peat moss is acidic. Peat is an organic living thing that grows on top of bogs. Okay, you've been to the south, you know what a bog is.
Peat bog.
Peat bog. Okay, really good for the garden, but it'll lower the pH. So you have to be aware of that if you use peat moss. And so you wanted to know the pH first, or as Lisa Douglas used to say, the pH.
The pH.
The pH.
Oliver.
Okay. Here comes Mr. Haney again. But anyway.
I loved Mr. Haney.
I love that whole.
You know who the smartest character on Green Acres was, right?
Hank Kimball, county agent.
Absolutely not. He was an idiot. Arnold.
Oh, that's true.
The pig had more sense than all of them.
Well, I've dealt with some government officials, and Hank Kimball kind of reminds me of him. But
well, it's not real dirt.
Yeah. Okay, what are you doing here? But anyway, so you wanted to know the pH, and you want to know the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potash levels, which is the 3 nutrients that your plants need. Now,
can I ask a dumb question?
Good. No dumb question.
What are the 3 things that a plant needs?
You need nitrogen, you need phosphorus, and you need potash.
What's to stop somebody from saying, I'm just going to put a third, all of those ingredients together, and that's the best growing material ever? Am I oversimplifying it?
It's done in different proportions, and we talked about that in a previous show.
Like 20, 40, and all that stuff?
Well, here we go again. This is not organic natural fertilizer. This is and don't go to the box store and buy the little 5-pound bag of fertilizer, because you're going to pay almost as much for that as you would for a 50-pound bag if you go to the feed mill.
Yep.
Okay? And it doesn't go bad. You open it up, put it in a plastic bucket with a lid, you can keep it till next year.
No, it's dirt.
It's dirt. Well, no, it's granules. It's granules. Okay? But anyway, so 5, 10, and 10 is 5% nitrogen, 10% phosphorus, and 10% potash. That's a very safe fertilizer.
All right, that's 25%. What is the other 75% of that stuff?
Inert, unnatural ingredients. I don't know what it is.
Stuff,
yeah.
All right.
Well, it's probably the binder that holds it together. It's not bad stuff.
Right.
Okay. And then you get 10, 10, and 10. That's a little more risky. That's a little more dangerous because it's 10% nitrogen, and nitrogen will burn your plants.
Okay, that's where the danger comes in.
And you can go by 20, 20, 20. I'd be scared to death to try to use it, because no matter how little you would use, it's a lot of nitrogen.
Are there certain plants that's what they need, or are certain plants more resilient to that?
Corn needs a lot more nitrogen than a lot of things do. And I side dress my corn. When it starts to push tassel, I side dress my corn with urea, which is 46% nitrogen. But I use it very sparingly, and I work it in around the corn, about 8 or 10 inches out from the row of corn plants. I work some of that in, because you know how big a corn stalk is. It takes a lot of nitrogen to grow a plant that big.
Yeah, you're talking about something, if you leave it alone and it works, it's going to be 7 or 8 feet easy.
Yeah. So and I do that, but I buy a bag of that. It's also good for melting ice and snow, and it doesn't wreck your concrete. Okay, so I use it for a couple different things. But in the past, that's basically what you needed to know. Now, if that's what you need, okay, I'm gonna give you a minute there. You need to get a pencil and paper.
I'm ready.
Okay, Geneva, and a very nice man up there named Kerry McMahon. I just spoke to him recently on the phone. They do basic soil testing, just what I talked about. Okay, the phone number is 724-847-6722. 724-847-6722. And you're going to have to leave a message, because he's a teacher. So when you call up there, he's probably going to be in a class, but he'll come into his office. And
what does he teach? Botany?
I don't know. Hopefully. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it could be some kind of chemistry.
True.
Okay.
Organic chemistry.
Okay. But that's funny, because I never really asked him that question. But he's a very, very accommodating man. And I talked to him recently, and he said, yeah, they're getting everything up and running. And this was a couple weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago. He said they were starting to get some samples in. Kerry's people can do that. And I don't have any of the fees or anything. You'd have to call and ask about that. But if you are in certain areas, and I don't want to say how far from ground zero that you need to be concerned.
Here's what you need to do. If you have any concerns at all, and if it's going to bug you, get the test done.
Yes.
Don't drive yourself crazy wondering all summer if you can eat that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You mentioned this on the air, Eddie. Blackhawk High School, the cloud got out to Blackhawk High School. They filed a lawsuit. That's about 7 miles from ground zero.
Yep.
All right? Western Beaver School District.
That's right.
That cloud went a lot farther than what a lot of people think. If you're in that area or you're worried about it all, you're going to need the big boy tests. You're going to need to test for the more toxic things, okay? Now, I understand that the labs that have the capability to do that are backed up like crazy, as you can imagine.
Sure.
Okay, where I've heard as much as 2 months downtime, lag time to get a result back. Hey, you want to be picking tomatoes in a couple of months, not finding out if you're okay.
Yeah, that's too late to get stuff in the ground, most stuff.
Right, but if it means skipping a year for peace of mind, or and you know what, and this is what scares me, Eddie, like maybe a lady's pregnant with a fetus in her body, which is very vulnerable and very susceptible. You know, she wouldn't have to eat very much of something from that tainted soil to possibly hurt that baby. And that's what's scary. And I'm an optimistic guy, you know, and the definition of an optimist is an 80-year-old guy that plants 2 acorns and buys a hammock, all right? So I'm an optimistic, but I can't help but be a bit pessimistic about this. It scares me, all right?
It should scare you.
Yeah.
When you don't know information, human beings are going to make it worse most of the time than it actually is if you just give them the information, and that's where we are with this. The information, you've had to claw and scream and grab and throw a fit to find out anything.
Exactly. Now, the Penn State Extension Service, what I understand, is linked into some of these more complicated labs, all right? And they are at 1003rd Street in Beaver, Pennsylvania, near the courthouse over there. Phone number is 724-774-3003. 724-774-3003. I haven't talked to them personally, but I've been the word of mouth thing I'm hearing about how long it's taken to get the results back, as well as well water and spring water tests and all that kind of shit.
Absolutely.
It's crazy, and but I'll say that about that. If you're even vaguely concerned that you could be in a bad area, get the big boy test before you plant your garden.
Charlie Dirt is my guest. It's Garden Jargon. I'm going to take a break. I got more questions. Don't go anywhere.
It's always the right time to shop the Hopewell Shopping Center, no matter what the season, no matter what the reason. It's truly your neighborhood shopping place with such a large variety of businesses that offer food, shopping, fine dining and quick-serving restaurants, personal services, and recreation. The Hopewell Shopping Center will be your one-stop for everything you need whenever you need it. Just click on beavercountyradio.com, the Hopewell Shopping Center merchant directory, for a complete look of merchants today. And get shopping at your neighborhood shopping place, the Hopewell Shopping Center.
Did you know there's a grocery store in your phone? How about wandering through the dog food aisle in your pajamas? Well, it's possible when you click grocerystorenewbrighton.com. Whether it's doing your weekly grocery run or picking up a few items on the way home from work, fill your order from Fisher's New Brighton Foodland from the convenience of your phone or computer. What could be better? Visit grocerystorenewbrighton.com for quick and easy pickup later at Fisher's New Brighton Foodland.
Bob Barrickman was a special individual when it comes to sports, especially high school sports. Bob was the voice of Beaver County. He loved what he did. Bob put a smile on his face, whether the team won or lost, and Dr. C. Timothy Lip does the same. Visit lipdentistry.com for a beautiful smile. Please consider a donation to the Bob Barrickman Memorial Scholarship established in his name through Beaver High School, his alma mater. Bob Barrickman, a special man.
Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Burns HVAC in Rochester has been serving the Allegheny, Beaver, and Butler counties for over 30 years. No worries, they are fully insured and licensed. Whether it's heating, cooling, or even ventilation, Burns HVAC can help. They repair, install, and service all your needs. For price or service, call Josh at 724-522-0465 or visit BurnsHVACLLC.com to schedule an appointment. Make your home warm in the winter and cool in the summer.
Turn your old ride into something new or restore it to its former glory. Call Gary Snare at Gnu's Body Works today and be ready for tomorrow's warmer weather that's just around the corner. They can get your motorcycle ready for the road too. Do it now and be ready for car cruises and sunny days ahead. Experience and dedication count when it comes to restoring your cherished vehicle. Call Gnu's Body Works for your free estimate or visit them at 408th Street, Freedom.
It's the place that makes your ears happy. The sound of a Beaver County radio broadcast live from the St. Barnabas studios at 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls and 1460 WMBA Ambridge.
11 minutes before noon. Sun is shining. Growing season is here. Charlie Dirt is here. It's Garden Jargon on Teleforum. You've used the term a few times, and I've heard it, and I've pretended I really knew what it meant, and I didn't say anything, so I'm going to go ahead and call myself out. When you say seed bed, what is a seed bed compared to a garden? I know I'm overthinking this, but what am I, if I say I'm going to start a seed bed, what am I doing and why am I doing it?
All right. Now, what I suggest for people to do, a seed bed is a separate spot from where you are going to grow your main garden, or it could be at the edge of your main garden. And what I always tell people is the easiest thing to start in a seed bed is cabbage.
Oh, I like cabbage.
Yeah, I do too. And you buy a package of cabbage seed, and you prepare the soil, and you cut a couple of furrows in the dirt, and you put the cabbage seeds in there, and you can put them real close, because what you're going to do is you're going to water them and nurture them, take care of them, and when they get to the size that where you would have bought them in the container in a big box store, all right, now, you do, especially cabbage, you do this on a cool, overcast day, if possible. Because when you transplant cabbage or broccoli or cauliflower or any of those kind of plants, if it's hot, they will wilt right down flat to the ground, and they'll look worse than the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. They'll just be. Now, that don't mean they're dead. That just means you've stunted them. All right? Anytime you transplant a plant, you stunt it. You shock it. Okay, to a certain extent. Now, if you can go out on a cool, overcast day, and you get some of them in May, you even get some of them in June.
Oh, yeah, mid-40s, mid-50s, easy.
Sure, okay. And then you dig a clump of your cabbage plants out, and you got a clump of dirt in your hand. It might have 8 or 10 cabbage plants in it. You carefully separate them, not damaging the roots, and I plant stuff close together. I plant cabbage 12 inches apart because if you stop and think, what's the biggest head of cabbage you ever bought? It's not much bigger than 12 inches.
No, about the size of a decent cantaloupe.
Yeah, or a little bigger. So if you have 12 inches for the plant, here's the beauty of it. The plants choke out the weeds instead of the weeds choking out the plant. The weeds don't have any room because once those cabbage leaves spread out, the weeds don't get any sun or water or stuff like that. It doesn't eliminate them completely. I still like to mulch them. But if you do them on a cool day, water them like crazy. Try to do it late in the afternoon or early in the evening so they got a whole cool night to sit there before that sun comes up. So in a little strip of ground, say maybe 5 or 6 feet long or a little bit longer, you can grow enough cabbage plants for you, your neighbor, and your Uncle Henry. You just dig a clump of them out and transplant them wherever you want them. And if you want to clear them out of there and put something else there, so you can get past the cabbage, you can dig those clumps out and you can put them in a big pot and soak them with water, put them in the shade, okay? And a seed bed is a very economical way to start things like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, stuff like that. And it's cheaper than buying the plants, and you don't have all the hassle of having them in the house, having to harden them off like we talked about. Certain plants you can do that with. So, and again, you want well-drained soil. You want to work the soil up. You are planting those seeds that when they first come up, Eddie, they're their most vulnerable. They're delicate little sprouts. So you want nice, loose ground for the seed to push up. You don't even want to cover maybe like a half an inch of dirt.
Little infant seeds.
And you know what? And you can do this, and I've done this too. If where you want to put the seed bed isn't the best dirt on your property, and you have some better dirt somewhere else, you can put the seeds in the furrow, and you can cover them with the finer dirt, the smoother dirt, so that they can come up easier. Or you could even probably get a bag of topsoil or potting soil or something and sprinkle it over top if the ground where you want to put them isn't the best ground on your property. But it's easy. And then another thing a lot of people do. I the only herb I grow really is basil. A lot of people do little seed beds and they don't move them, and they put in their mint or oregano or whatever, and they have that off to the side, and it's a seed bed separate from the garden, and they don't ever mean to transplant it. That's where it's going to stay, you know. And another thing that's kind of neat about, well, one of the main things, what basil's really good to eat, okay, but what's really neat about basil is you get this big plant, it's got the green leaves on it. You go out and snip the leaves off, and you go out in a couple of weeks, and there's more leaves, and you snip them off. Now, basil will get a seed pod that comes up the top. It'll get kind of a cone with little flowers on it. Don't let it get to that. Keep trimming it before it gets to that. If it does start to make a seed pod, take your scissors and nip that off. And you can harvest basil from the time it starts to produce clear till the frost. Okay, so the basic thing, the basic thing that with the new garden, if you're picking a spot, start humble, start small. You can always make it bigger. Morning sun, get your soil test, check your soil out, make sure it's loose enough, and the pH is one of, like I said, that it's a little baby chemistry set out there. You know, right. The pH is one of the most important things.
Charlie Dirt is my guest. I have one more question for you, and I'm going to only give you about 1 minute to answer it. I just saw a story that says plants feel pain and they make noise when they feel pain. We can't hear it, but they believe animals can. Do you believe that? This is a Star Trek episode, actually. Okay. But do you believe that when you snip the bud off of one of your plants, do you feel like the plant goes, ouch?
All things are possible in heaven and earth, okay? But I have heard that. Now, I will tell you this. There have been experiments where people that are very much better with plants than I am, okay? They'll plant 2 identical plants or 4 identical plants, and they talk nice to one and play music and are totally nasty to and they swear to goodness that the one that they treated nice does better. So, and I think that, and I've heard this about trees. The trees, when they're attacked by certain pests, certain insects and that, can emit a signal to the other trees, like the redwoods in California. I've heard that. Who knows? Until your radio guys come back in here and get a receiver that'll pick up that shortwave.
That's what I want.
It's it. Yeah.
Okay, so we went from Star Trek to trees, H.R. Puffin stuff.
And the CB radio.
And the CB, and ham radio.
Ham radios, yeah.
Charlie, great talking to you again.
You had a good time, man.
Charlie Dirt, it's Garden Jargon. Remember, when you hug a tree, it makes it happy.
Tune in to WBVP, WMBA, and 99.3 FM during this and every second Thursday.